An Ohio man, Frank Tyson, dies in police custody after repeatedly telling officers, "I can't breathe," as they pinned him down. It's Ricky Rich with Black Primacy. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications.
Tonight, police in Ohio releasing new body cam footage showing a man who became unresponsive during his arrest was later pronounced dead at a hospital. His last words heard in the footage, "I can't breathe." In the video, we hear Frank Tyson yell those words out at least 7 times as cops try to subdue him, with one officer putting a knee on his upper back for about 40 seconds. We are only going to show you that moment once, and we have to warn you here, it is incredibly disturbing.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't. You don't want that. I can't breathe.
Pass the storage right there. I'll be glad to take care of you.
Okay. I can't breathe.
You're fine.
Yep. Good.
This all happened last Thursday when Tyson allegedly crashed his car into a pole.
What did the cops say? Did the cops say shut the F up?
This all happened last Thursday when Tyson allegedly.
Yep. Good.
All right. So the man is saying, "I can't breathe." All right. Let's just finish the story.
This all happened last Thursday when Tyson allegedly crashed his car into a pole in Canton before running into a nearby bar. You can see here police finding the damaged pole and what they say is Tyson's car nearby before bystanders directed the officers into the bar where Tyson was. An altercation, a tussle between Tyson and the officers starts nearly immediately. That's when they start trying to take him to the ground. The coroner says Tyson's cause of death is still pending. The officers involved are on paid administrative leave while officials investigate. There is, of course, a very obvious overlap with the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis here, who was murdered by a police officer who kept his knee on Floyd's neck for nearly 10 minutes as he, too, cried out, "I can't breathe." Floyd's death and his last words becoming a rallying cry for the Black Lives Matter movement, spurring huge protests against police brutality in this country. NBC's Dana Griffin is following this one for us. And Dana, we'll get to that overlap again, not an apples to apples comparison, but let's start with this video, which shows almost everything from start to finish over the course of 35 minutes. Explain that and where things go from here.
And I want to walk you through that timeline. And I think there are 3 key moments here when you look through this video that lasted some 35 minutes from the time they arrived. 40 seconds, an officer kept his knee on Frank Tyson's back. And then it took about 5 minutes, 29 seconds between the time he last said, "I cannot breathe," and the first time we actually see officers check his pulse. An additional 3 minutes go by before they start doing CPR. Now, I think what's most disturbing.
So it took roughly 8 minutes or so from the time that the knee was placed on his back to the time of them checking for his pulse. 6 minutes. Knee placed on his back at 4:15 and checking for his pulse for the first time at 10:30. So a little over 6 minutes.
About this video, as you mentioned, they weren't holding him down for several minutes as people pleaded with officers to ask them to get off, but it's the what happened after he was in handcuffs. And you notice that he was very combative, yelling out, "Call the sheriff." And there's actually a woman in that video who says, "No, they're here to help you." So it's clear that he's in some sort of mental crisis or health crisis here. And even when officers get him handcuffed, he doesn't make a peep. To go from being so combative to not saying a word should have been the first indication. You later see the officers making jokes about, at least one of those officers making a joke about always wanting to be in a bar fight. And it wasn't until they looked down and realized something's not right here that they finally call an ambulance. But it still took several minutes, even after that ambulance was called, for them to start administering CPR. Listen to what else they said during that body cam video.
Did he calm down?
Yeah, he might be out.
Breathing? Did he have a pulse?
I didn't feel it. Can you tell medics to step it up? It was not responsive. I don't know if I can feel a pulse.
So both of those Canton police officers are now on paid administrative leave as the department investigates. And actually, there's a state department that's actually taking over this investigation. And the mayor says that they plan to be very transparent about what comes out in that investigation. Hallie?
We talked about how Tyson's death is coming nearly at the 4-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. There were so many promises of police reform back then, including, in some instances, the suggestion for reforming tactics that restrict the way that a suspect can breathe. Talk us through that piece of this, Dana.
Yeah, and I think, Hallie, just those haunting words of "I can't breathe," we've heard in several cases where people were killed they died after pleading with officers.
No, she had it right. They were killed. She had it right. She's trying to be politically correct, and I get it. She's on NBC News. That was funny. She had to let's back that up. She had to rephrase herself, but she had it right.
They died after pleading with officers, killed.
Piece of this, Dana.
Yeah, and I think, Hallie, just those haunting words of "I can't breathe," we've heard in several cases where people were killed they died after pleading with officers to help them. And this was the same plea that this man made in this video. And I think with a lot of police departments after the murder of George Floyd, there were talks about, you got rid of the carotid chokehold because of what happened to George Floyd. There was talks about not keeping detainees in that prone position with their faces down. A moment you saw this person with his face in the carpet. And so it raises the questions of why was he not flipped over? Why was he not checked on immediately after being put in those handcuffs? And a lot of those questions will hopefully be answered in this investigation. Hallie?
Thanks for watching. Stay up.
Well, let's cue up the people saying, oh, he shouldn't have resisted, blah, 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 blah. You're right. You're right. He shouldn't have resisted. That when people resist, that means they deserve to be choked out. Did y'all hear the way his voice sounded when? Let me see if I can find that again at the beginning. Oh, this is a different video. Let me go back.
The footage, "I can't breathe," with one officer have to warn you here, it is incredibly disturbing.
I can't breathe.
Listen.
I can't breathe. I can't. You don't want that.
Does that sound like a person that could actually breathe? So because I resist, that just gave me chills just hearing. But because I resist, you put your foot on my neck in a way that you can clearly hear that there's no air getting in. And then I think right after this is when he tells him to shut the F up.
That's the story right there. I'll be glad I appreciate it. Okay.
I can't breathe.
You're fine.
Yep, good.
Shut up.
Come on. Come on. Come on. So, I mean, whoever's got the excuses, whatever the case, that's beside the point. All right. The man didn't deserve to be choked out. He didn't have any weapons. He wasn't harming anybody. He was clearly unstable for whatever reason. Doesn't really matter the reason. Medical attention should have been brought to him immediately. We see this time and time again. Other races they're not killed and they be some of them be gone off all kinds of stuff, running around butt naked, doing all kind of crazy stuff, and the police chase them around for 30 minutes, and they get to go to the hospital, get treatment, and then have their day in court for whatever reason. But for some reason, these types of things happen, and people look at this and say, "Oh, well, he shouldn't have resisted." You're right, he shouldn't have resisted, but he also shouldn't have been killed. So there's that. All right, speaking directly to my black men, women, and children out there. Yeah, we need not to be, when clearly he's not in a clear mental state, so it's kind of hard for me to even you know suggest that he is, and suggest that we move differently when we are in a clear mental state. But regarding just dealing with the police in general, just comply, do what they say, have your day in court, get you a lawyer, and get some bread out of it at the end of the day if you can. But go home, make it home safely, um, because nothing is going to change, obviously. Like she said, you would think that with all the police reform that was supposedly done, and just the outcry of "I can't breathe" and things that happened with George Floyd, that me putting my foot or my knee on someone's back or neck area and them saying "I can't breathe" would trigger something in my head to pay a little closer attention, and maybe move differently. Like she said in the video as well, like he goes from, you know, being combative and resisting to just flat silence for 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and you guys are just you thought he just decided, okay, I'm just gonna chill out. I'm like, come on. We'll follow this story. It's Ricky Rich with Black Primacy. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications.